Hey everyone, how are you? Today is Tuesday. What is today, Crystal? April 15th, day after Valentine. April.
February.
I'm just a little ahead of myself. I'm Frances Reaves from Parent Your Parents. And today we have Crystal Van Orsdel, who is the Assistant Vice President at Van Orsdel Funeral and Cremation Services. Well,
Yes.
that's an easy title.
Yes.
And we are going to talk about basically our theme is how to die well. Because as much as I hate to tell us all, me included, we don't have a choice. Sooner or later, it's going to happen.
Right.
So, Crystal, tell us a little bit about Crystal Van Orsdel and your firm.
So my name is Crystal Van Orsdel. I have my husband Pablo and two children. Um, I have been working with my family business pretty much since I was born. I'm the fourth generation. It was started in 1924.
Wow.
We have three locations in Coral Gables, Kendall, as well as Midtown Miami. And
Oh, so you're in Midtown.
yes, we have a location in Midtown too. That's kind of a historic location.
And what do you mean by historic?
The building is still the Art Deco.
Oh,
We
wow.
remodeled it, but maintained the original,
Outside.
architecture and construction.
Oh,
Yes.
how nice. And is one bigger than the other or
Our Kendall location is our largest location,
okay.
and it has a very large facilities and rooms for people to have their celebrations of life.
Okay. Okay. And when you think about what it is you do people, when they come to you, do they actually have like, I want to be in Kendall, I want to be in Coral Gables, or I want to be in Midtown, or do you give them options or?
A lot of times that depends on where they live.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes they base it on that. Other times it's based on if they want to have a very large gathering.
Ah.
So it just depends.
How many people can you hold at the Kendall location?
We could probably hold around 250 people.
Oh, so that's
Yes,
huge.
yes. We even
Wow.
have a room for overflow when everybody doesn't fit in one room.
Oh,
They can
wow.
watch the service.
Wow.
Yes.
And sorry, our producer is running around making sure we look gorgeous on air.
Yes.
So make sure we're looking gorgeous as well. So, Crystal, I just want to ask you this question because of how I was. When I was a little girl, I still remember my dad was in this car accident and mom came in and told us, mother was, dramatic. And she'd been and my first question was, is daddy dead? Because
Mhm.
as a kid, I think I was probably in the third grade. We were living in Singapore, so I had to be in the third grade. And I was very nervous about the fact that my dad might be with angels or
Right.
and I wouldn't see him again. And I didn't really understand why he got to go see angels and I couldn't go with him because in church they told us those were good people. Um, and of course, as you mature, or as I matured, let me say it this way, I came to realize what death is and how it's not an option. It's simply what's going to
Right.
happen.
Right.
Now, growing up in the Van Orsdel family, did you have any of those issues? Were you?
Um, well, since I was a little kid, I always went to the funeral home with my dad. So I was definitely around death a lot more than the average kid. That's no doubt. But I went with him on funerals of family members, of friends, and I just saw it as something natural,
Uh-huh.
a natural part of life. He would always tell me to make myself useful, to serve others, even if it was just opening the door at the funeral home
Oh,
or serving coffee. So I just kind of saw it as a very natural thing
yeah.
growing up.
I actually think that's probably the better way to do it, truthfully, because then there's nothing hidden.
Exactly. And most grief counselors would actually agree that you shouldn't lie to children. You shouldn't hide death from a child. If they want to attend the funeral service and be part of the funeral service, it's actually good for children.
Yeah. And what about your kids?
They've been around death as well, not as much as me, because I used to go all the time with my dad. But
Were you and your dad close? Is it because you wanted to do it?
yes, I would go the whole summer pretty much.
Oh, wow.
And help out. But my children, they go once in a while, so they kind of understand. They
Yeah.
understand what I do.
Well, and how old are they?
11 and 7.
So 7, I guess you're just coming into being, right?
Yes,
You're
yes,
just sort of realizing
yes,
the world around you.
yes.
Well, before we got together today, I went on your website just to sort of come up with some questions to ask. And I remember that, you all talk about all these, like, however you want to do it is how we want to do it for
Yes,
you.
yes.
So maybe you could give us some examples of fun or different send-offs.
Yes. So as a family-owned funeral home, one of the wonderful things that I get to do is choose and help find unique ways for families to honor their loved ones.
Oh.
And one of the recent companies that we partnered with this year is called Eternova. And what they do is that they extract the carbon from your loved one's cremated remains and turn it into a diamond.
A real diamond?
A real diamond, yes. Many companies have done this in the past, but we were reluctant to go with them. But this company was actually appeared on Shark Tank, and Mark Cuban invested in their company.
Oh, wow.
And all the science has been verified. Even they brought in jewelers and everything, and it is a real diamond. So
and can you talk about how many carats you want?
Yes, yeah, you can tell them how many carats you want. You can tell them what color, what cut, and then they can set it for you, or you can go to your own private jeweler.
Oh, I love the idea of getting a pink diamond. If I'd only, I've always wanted a pink diamond. If only, mom and dad, if I'd known that when mom and dad, I would have loved to have something like that.
I know.
Now, is it real pricey?
They actually can work within whatever budget, and they have payment plans as well.
Oh, wow.
So
now, what about some of the parties people have? Have they had some extraordinary?
Some people tell their loved ones that they want a huge party, celebration of life when they go. And yes, we have had some. We had a funeral with a DJ. Chicken wings, beer. We even brought in some small palm trees, to make it feel tropical. So really, that's another really cool thing about being family owned, is that we're open to all that, whatever is meaningful to you and your family, whether it's something like that or something very traditional.
And do you find that different cultures sort of want different things?
A lot of cultures typically there's certain cultures that want traditional things, but Miami's such a cultural melting pot, and we're, families are mixed with different cultures. So to see somebody do completely traditional nowadays is kind of rare.
Oh, really?
It could be a mix of things, whatever's meaningful, honestly.
And now, does Van Orsdel it doesn't matter whether, and I don't mean this in any sort of way to talk about different people, but I mean, I know in funeral homes you have some Black funeral homes, yes. You have white funeral homes, you have Jewish funeral homes, you have Santeria, probably. I honestly, I don't know. Do you all care who it is that comes?
I think that's the beauty of our funeral home, and what people love about us is that we serve all faiths, all cultures. Our staff knows about 3 or 4 different languages. We're from various countries. So we have staff that knows, the customs of the Jewish, for example, all the Jewish funeral customs. We have staff that speaks Creole and knows all the Haitian customs. So that's the beauty of our funeral home. We can serve anybody.
And so now, and what does that mean exactly? So they come to you and they're Creole staff and say, whatever it is you want,
Well, most of our staff has learned a lot of the different things that certain cultures want.
Okay.
Usually they can be with honestly any funeral director, and then if there's a director that really knows a lot of those customs, then we can bring them in for that family,
Okay.
just as an expert advice or something like
Okay.
that.
And so I'm going to switch gears now.
Tell me.
And we talked a little bit about this when we were discussing what we were going to say yesterday. But when I understand that when you were a little girl, you went with your dad, you loved your dad, and he just said, made yourself useful, et cetera, et cetera. Now, with your children, how have you explained what it is you do and what they have to sort of, like when they come with you, how they have to be?
I kind of did the same thing. They came with me on a few funerals of family members, and I let them ask me the questions,
Ah,
to where they feel comfortable. And a lot of times they knew. They would tell me, "Mommy, this person passed away, right?" And I would ask them, "What does that mean to you?" And I let them to not go past where they are, where their levels at.
ah,
But I told them the same things: to serve, to help. I had my son opening the door at a funeral. So, it's up to them if they want to continue this in the
right.
future. I would love that. But I'm just instilling in them the same values that my dad taught me.
Good for you.
Yeah.
What a wonderful way to say that.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. And what about when you have young tragic deaths? Teenagers who are in a car accident or
Yeah.
boating,
Mhm.
a lot of boating accidents, of course, in
Yes,
the
yes.
Miami area. How do you work that? I mean, I'm
Well,
sure it's hard for everyone.
yeah, unfortunately, as many years as we've been doing this, it's even hard on our funeral directors, on
Oh,
myself when it's a young person or even a child. Um, what we do is we just pour our heart out to that family, like we always do. We really encourage a ceremony for
mm,
closure, for gathering. When it's tragic and sudden like that, those ceremonies are even more meaningful. And usually, those are the ceremonies that we have people out the door
oh,
in a line trying to express their sympathies to the families.
yeah.
So it's unfortunate, but we're just there for the family as much
Yeah.
as we can be.
I remember in law school, my third year of law school here at the University of Miami, we lost 3 young men who were celebrating graduating. They were in my class who were celebrating graduating. And unfortunately, they hit a tree and all 3 of them died. And I remember, I didn't know them very well, but somehow or another, when someone is a part of a class, even if you don't know them well, you
Right.
feel as though you want to go pay respects.
Right.
And I was part of that overflow crowd. I honestly, I don't remember where or who it was. It was 30 years ago,
Right.
but I remember thinking, here's what I remember thinking, and it's a little sad. I remember, and I've often lived my life this way. God, if you're going to take me, do it like before the bar exam. Or God, if you're going to take me, do it before finals. I don't want to go through all of this and
I
then
know.
die. And that's kind of how I felt about those 3 men. They'd gone through finals, they'd passed, they'd done really well, they had internships, they knew where they were going.
Yeah.
And just because they were being boys.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's very sad and unfortunate.
Yeah. And have your children at their age had any of their contemporaries die?
Thank God, not yet.
Yeah.
When I was little, we did have a classmate die, unfortunately, in a tragic death.
Oh,
And that was a little more shocking because, originally I had thought that it only happened when you got old.
right.
And I think that's where it really hit me, and it makes you question that. Wait, I'm gonna come to an end too one day.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's unfortunate. All we can do is be there for the families. On our Facebook and our social media, we always post ideas and things you can do for the family.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes people don't really know what to say, or how to say
Oh,
it
that's smart.
exactly,
Yeah.
or when to reach out. And sometimes not reaching out can also be hurtful too. So
Yeah.
we put those things on social media so people know what's the best way to reach out and provide that support to the family.
And I've also noticed, and I don't know whether this is good or bad. A lot of funeral homes, I'm sure you all probably do this too. You print the obituary, and you don't care how many words it is. It's not like, anybody has to pay by the word. They write what they want, right? And then, or no.
Well, in certain newspapers, the obituary the cost is by word.
Oh,
Or
no,
by
no, no.
line.
That's what I'm saying, but not where you all.
No, on our website,
Yeah.
they
No,
can
no.
put as much as they want.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
no. The cost, all newspapers, unless you're famous and
Right.
they're writing the obituary.
Yeah.
Huh. I wonder how I get there.
Yeah.
Elian, do you think Michael will write the obituary for me? Oh, is it Andres?
No.
Darn. So I should do it now? So that's one of the things I like about with the internet is you all post the obituary and then everybody can add their own. I love that because
Yes.
if you're the one grieving and you want to reach out to the family but don't know how, just writing it down.
That is the perfect place. It's all complimentary and people have a safe space to share a memory. That's what we call it. Share a memory, write them a message to the family. They can even light a virtual candle.
Oh.
A lot of families would allow us to post their video tribute of their loved one on there, and sometimes if the family wants, we live stream it. So it's available there, and they can choose whether they want that password protected or not. And make it public.
All right. So because of trolls on internets, I'm going to ask you, do you have someone who goes in and makes sure no one is going in and saying mean stuff?
Yes, definitely. That was one of the first things that was added to the website. It's basically a page where all of our funeral directors are monitoring 24 hours a day, hopefully. And we just take a look at the comments and make sure that they're okay and that they actually know the family. And then we get to approve or decline the comments.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
okay.
Very good question.
Yeah. No, I've often worried about that.
Right.
Right.
And a lot of families ask, why didn't my comment get posted like within seconds? And sometimes, we'll do it within 10 minutes. But it does need to go through that approval process first.
Oh, good. I'm delighted you have an approval process. Yes. And what, when, of course, at my age, I have, and actually, once you're involved in politics, you start going to a lot of funerals. Funerals are where, if they can make it political, they are going to do it. And I remember the first time I went to a funeral, I was out of college or very close to out of college, but I was not what grief counselors, mom and dad sort of kept me away from all of that. Mm-hmm. And some of it was because when we lived in Bogota, Colombia, the FARC and the rebels were very active. And we had some very tragic circumstances where parents were delivered in pieces and, some of that sort of stuff. So mom and dad kind of, I think, wanted to just keep us away from that. But I remember everyone was always so somber. Mm-hmm. And I guess my question is, they always, if you're a Christian family or a Jewish family or a Muslim family or whatever, aren't you supposedly going to a better place? And so does the somberness come from just because you feel bad for the people who are going to be missing that person, or is it just tradition? Or I'm just asking.
I think it's just tradition, but that is changing.
It is?
That is totally changing. We have people come in and say, I don't want anybody wearing black, please. There's no need to wear black. Like black clothing. That is what officially was supposed to be worn for a funeral.
Right.
A lot of families do follow that, but it is changing rapidly. There have even been families that have requested for us not to wear suits.
Oh, wow.
to wear something more, comfortable, more contemporary. And so we can do that. We can do that too.
A shopping experience for work, no less. How much fun is
Or
that, right?
if they want us to wear guayaberas
Oh, yeah.
for Cuban funeral, they've wanted us to wear superhero t-shirts. Yeah.
Oh,
So we're open to all that, and we welcome that. We welcome that. It doesn't have to be a somber uh, event. And actually, when we recently remodeled our locations, one of the things that I wanted to make sure is that the lighting was there. That
Right.
a lot of families, it used to be that the lighting in the funeral home had to be dim.
Yeah.
But
Which is better for my wrinkles.
well, we have, and we kept it. We have a dimmer now, so you can have the lights as bright as you want in that room, or you can have them dim. But there's the option.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh, that's nice.
So
Yeah.
some families will tell us just turn the lights all the way up. Others want it dim, but
Right.
it's different now.
Yeah. And do you find, like, my whole thing is elders, as we've discussed. And when someone's 95, it's like my dad was 94 when he died. I knew I was going to miss my dad, and I tell people it seems great, you tell them, oh, he lived such a wonderful long life, but the truth of the matter is you've lived that life with him. And so for 55 of those years or 60 of those years, he's been there, and now all of a sudden he's gone. So I'm a little sad, but in fact, Dad lived 3 bad months in 94 years. So there really is not a lot to be upset about when you think about it. However, do people find, and so I guess the question is, do people find it easier to say goodbye to an elder versus
I think,
like a 45? Or
I think most definitely, because it's a natural progression in life. It's much easier to accept mentally. People we always recommend the value of the ceremony,
right.
Because you might say, well, all his friends and friends and brothers and sisters are gone.
Yeah.
But believe it or not, sometimes a 90-something-year-old funeral has a lot of people, because again, it's for the living. Funerals for the living. So the people there are supporting the ones that have lost their loved one.
Right.
But those ceremonies, I think, are so beautiful when we watch the video and we see the old pictures of when they were born in black and white.
Yeah.
And to see that they lived a long, fulfilling life, that's very special to me.
Yeah. It is true that the longer you live, the less people show up.
Exactly.
I know. What do I want? Do I want a lot of people at my funeral, or do I want to live a long life? Wow, I'd never thought of it that way.
And that's why we really encourage children, and I mean grown-up children,
Right.
to talk to their parents about, both of them have an exchange, a talk of what they would want. I know it's taboo sometimes, and sometimes we don't want to talk about it, but it's a lot better to have that conversation before than after you're left wondering, what did mom want? Am I doing too little? Am I doing too much?
Yeah. Well, at Parent Your Parents, we totally encourage that. We talk about, we want them, if they, whether to be cremated or, and I have some clients who want their children to make all the decisions. They can't even deal with, I mean, some people have, and actually my husband was one of these folks. He just has not had a good time thinking about death. And I think Dad, my father, had no problems whatsoever. I told him exactly what we were going to do, and he was fine with it. Now, and here's something else that we talked about. As long as we're talking about funerals and death and living longer, I always feel, and I write a lot of articles about the fact that celebration of life should be while you're alive.
I totally agree. Yeah. I mean, my grandma says it all the time. She's still alive. She's 91.
Wow.
And she's like, I want you guys to tell me now, while I'm living, all the beautiful things you're going to say.
Yeah.
I think that's super important. I think people should gather and say those things while you're still living.
Right.
But that being said, going to funerals for so many years and seeing how you need the ceremony for healing,
Right.
it's still very necessary.
Right.
Even if it's something short, whatever, it doesn't have to be a 6-hour visitation
Right.
and an hour of people speaking. It's whatever is going to give you that closure and be meaningful to you.
To you.
So
Yeah.
even if it's just an hour, even if you don't want to do it at the funeral home and you just want to have a little gathering at your house.
Yeah. Sort of what the Jews do after the ceremony.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that's so nice that they go and keep the family company.
Yes.
And I mean, but we do that. The Christian religion, I think, sort of does it the day of.
Yes.
But what I like about sitting Shiva is that you get them for 2 or 3 days. It kind of takes it down a little bit.
Yes.
And everybody apparently bonds around food.
Yeah.
My only problem with when we said goodbye to mom and dad, we had alcohol, but not everybody does. Now, do you all have, a liquor license, or do they have to bring it in?
We can bring in a caterer, and we do have an alcohol disclaimer.
Oh, okay.
That you need to sign, but we have had served alcohol at the funeral.
Okay.
Or after we have a memorial reception room.
Oh, okay. So
where you can bring in your own caterer, or we can set it up for you, and everything's there. And families find that some families think that that's easier than going to their house after.
Right.
Because, then they don't have, we clean up everything, we set up everything.
That's totally what I would want.
It just depends on,
Well, it's funny because with mom and dad, now, because my father was a veteran, and we should talk about this a little bit too.
Yes.
Veterans have all these great benefits. And if there's one thing the VA does really well, it's a burial or placing the ashes in the crematorium.
Yes.
And I'm assuming, I know with mom and dad, we had someone in Atlanta, Georgia, who arranged all of that. So I'm assuming you all do that as well.
Yes, we can definitely help with that. Veterans, what we found is a lot of them either don't know their benefits or they think they have more benefits than what they have.
Okay.
So most of the time, if you were honorably discharged and you didn't die in the line of duty, you at least have a cemetery space or niche for you and your spouse at a national cemetery.
Right. Which is free. In other words,
free.
You don't have to pay for that real estate.
Right. And the headstone as well, the whole tap ceremony, giving the flag, all that. But we really highly encourage families or veterans to meet with us, at least so that we can provide you with the pre-need veterans eligibility form.
Oh, so that
or you can do it online. Because, for example, if your intentions are to be buried at Arlington, we cannot decide that for you. And they're getting stricter and stricter.
Yeah, no, they're running out of real estate.
So you need to fill out one of those forms, either online or by mail, and let them know your intentions, that you want to be buried at Arlington or wherever you want to be buried, and they will respond. Sometimes it takes a few weeks, sometimes it takes a few months.
Yes.
To let you know if you're eligible or not. And then you can make decisions, because you still have to take care of the funeral services portion.
Right.
You have to, if you're going to be buried, you need a funeral home to provide the casket, all the preparation. If you're going to be cremated, same thing.
Right.
The VA is not going to do that.
No.
So that is the misconception that a lot of people have.
Right.
We will try to work within everybody's budget. We have veterans packages for pre-planning. That people can do. But the main thing that we can help you with that is important for you is to get that eligibility verification.
Well, and I know, just because I know your father,
yes,
that you all buried Admiral Rickenbacker.
Yes. Yeah.
That's not the Rickenbacker Causeway. I don't think.
No,
that bridge
I don't think
behind us. Yeah. So you all have been doing veterans benefits for a long time.
A long time, yes.
And it doesn't matter whether you were private first class or a 4-star general.
Right.
It's the same.
Right.
It's so equal.
Right.
Which I think is, because a life is a life is a life.
Yes.
And I think that's so egalitarian, I guess. And as bad as I've maligned the VA sometimes with their hospitals as I deal with some of my elder clients, I have to say, burying mom and dad at the Dallas Fort Worth Memorial
Mm-hmm.
Cemetery was it was really, really a wonderful experience. Although we had to go through services, two services to finally get to the third.
Yep.
Because what happened was mother died first in Atlanta, Georgia, and my father, being my father, insisted that we have a service for her,
Mm-hmm.
which we did. And, it was really nice. But it was so important to my father. And
Mm-hmm.
then dad died 4 months later, which
Wow.
of course I knew was going to happen. He'd
Mm-hmm.
taken care of everything. My tears still well up.
Mm.
So he died 4 months later. And of course, then we had to put their ashes together in Atlanta.
Wow.
And so by the time we got to the March, that was all in 2017. So by the time we got to the March 2018 ceremony, which is, of course, you have to get in line
Right.
to
Mm-hmm.
be, that's the other thing people don't realize. You have to get in line
Right.
to these.
Right.
And then by the time we got there, I remember my brother and I were like, okay, we know funerals.
Yeah. You were
We have
pros.
got this down. But each and every one was really, and we were in shock at how much of my father's family came from all over Texas
Mm-hmm.
to be there. So it worked out.
Yes.
It worked out really, really well. But no, the veterans, and we were just talking to a veteran's widow
Yes.
earlier.
Yes.
And she's doing a little of that, except and they'll also help if you don't want to be in a memorial.
Right.
They'll also give you, I think, a casket or $500.
I'm not sure about the casket, but there is maybe some sort of monetary benefit,
yeah.
and also I think there's also the benefit of helping you get a headstone at a private cemetery.
Oh, okay.
If you decide you don't want to be in their national cemetery.
Right. If you want to be with your family.
But the national cemeteries are beautifully well kept.
They
we recently, during the pandemic, we did a special ceremony.
Mm-hmm.
We had about 400 unclaimed cremated remains that my father had kept. And we went through all of them and did research. It took months. And we worked with a company. I forget the name. But we located which ones of those cremated remains were veterans. And we were able to get with the National Cemetery and give them a proper burial in a columbarium. And they had urns made by a wooden gilders group.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So, and I went there to the National Cemetery, got there super early. The fog was on all the graves. It was beautiful, beautiful experience.
Well, I have found that because mom and dad are in a memorial cemetery close to Fort Worth, where I went to college, and close to family where I go visit, I found I try and make the opportunity to go by and see their columbarium.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of nice. Whereas if they were out in Miami Gardens or, in Fort Worth Specialty Gardens or whatever these places are called, I'm not so sure I would, because every headstone's different and trying to find it. Whereas this way, I know right where they are. I just go, there's a little map. It tells me. Plus, I find that everybody working there is so friendly. They're going to come and help you find your loved ones.
Yes.
It's really one of the best things the VA does.
Yes.
It really is.
Yes.
And honestly, I think that's sort of a good place to stop.
Okay.
No, seriously. Is there something else you'd like to discuss?
Actually, I'll discuss one more thing.
Good.
That's getting very popular now, and a lot of funeral homes are not embracing.
Good.
But we are, and that is eco-friendly funerals.
I didn't even know. We should have discussed this yesterday. Thank you.
Green burials is something that is becoming, it's on the rise now, and we're getting a lot of inquiries. Unfortunately, the closest green cemetery is in Gainesville. Prairie Creek Conservation Cemetery, but it is completely natural.
Well, tell us, what is a natural
Okay,
funeral? That's what I want to
it
hear.
means that there is no embalming chemicals
Okay.
used, that there is no metal or anything. Everything has to be biodegradable.
Okay. Do you
And
shroud the person?
it could be a shroud, or it could be a woven kind of basket type material,
Okay.
or wood. The
Of
caskets
course.
that we use are just natural wood with there's not even hinges. The hinges are made of wood and everything.
Wow.
So we can do that if that's something that your family is interested in. In terms of cremation, we have options like a biotree urn, which is to put the cremated remains into an urn that can be planted and becomes a tree. So lots of eco-friendly options. And I don't know if you've heard of this one that we have helped several families do. It's called Eternal Reefs.
No.
Okay.
Look at this.
We work with a company that takes the cremated remains of your loved one, and actually you're part of the process. You help. Mixing it into a concrete mixture that is eco-friendly, that is molded into an artificial reef. Okay. And it's placed in the ocean, and it becomes part of the environment.
Wow. And it's all biodegradable.
The reef just starts growing all sorts of
Around it.
organisms and stuff. And you have your plaque, and families can put, things into the concrete if they want.
Oh.
Handprints. I've been part of the process before. It's really, it's an experience.
So it's totally experiential. You put your handprint or your little granddaughters.
I've seen families put a watch or a piece of jewelry right on the top of it.
I'm not going to put my jewelry in.
And then, that gets cast. And the next day, you and your family go out on the boat with them, and you watch it get lowered into the ocean around near Hollover.
Because they have actual licensing places.
Yes. Totally. Everything is, worked out with the Environmental Protection Agency and everything. So it's just a really unique. We have so many unique options and eco-friendly options that we're embracing.
I think that's great. What are you going to do?
I actually like that one the most.
What about your dad?
Reef. My dad, I think he's going to go traditional.
He is?
Yeah.
Grandmother?
My grandmother's going to go traditional too, but my mom is thinking cremation.
Oh, in other words, traditional is non-cremation.
Well, I shouldn't say. I would say traditional burial.
Oh, okay.
But we can have traditional cremations too, in terms of.
I should have defined that. Yeah. So your grandmother and your dad both don't want to be cremated.
No, they want burial.
That's so funny. My dad was that way too at first, but then by the time, I guess mom worked on him for 30 years or so. But
it's funny because they say that the increased desire to be cremated is not related to money. It's a personal preference.
It is, yeah.
And lately we've been doing about 70% cremation.
Yeah. No, the studies show that that's where it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I want to be cremated. My husband too. My mom. So it's just a preference.
And your dad and is your grandmother your paternal grandmother?
No, my mom's mom.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
My paternal grandmother is already in a mausoleum.
Okay.
Burial too.
She was traditional, or what you call non-cremation.
Right. She was a traditional burial.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so funny, when cremation first came out, I was kind of nervous about it. Like, you forget that you're not going to feel any of this. That's the issue. None of us, no one. George Carlin says it beautifully, that there's actually this 2-minute warning. He does this whole routine on there's this 2-minute warning before you die. It's so funny. So if you want to look up George Carlin 2-minute warning, and he says the reason you don't know about it is because you die. But he says, but if you hear that 2-minute warning, have the speech prepared so that you can finish it by saying, and if I'm wrong, God, strike me down, and you'll be strucken down. And now what you said, people will hear.
Oh my gosh.
I know. So, but that is, I hadn't thought about, but what's funny is when I first thought about cremation, I was like, ooh, I don't want to get all burned up. Of course, now I'm totally about cremation.
Yeah.
It's just so much easier.
And
But this whole eco thing, I
Yeah.
really like that idea.
yeah, yeah.
And is pricing ridiculous? or-
No, at this point, the eco-friendly cemetery, Green Cemetery, does not charge for the space. They charge, they ask for a fee to open it and close it,
Okay.
and it's a very minimal fee. I don't
Oh,
know if that's ever going to change,
Yeah.
but at this point, you just you can't
Because you're
reserve
going
it
to go
ahead of time.
back. You're going
Yeah.
to go back to
Yeah.
it's really ashes to ashes,
Exactly.
dust to dust.
Exactly. So at this point, you can't reserve it, but
Mhm.
you can let them know those are your intentions, and you can take care of all the funeral planning, and us getting you there and all, ahead of time. But really, it's affordable.
Mhm. And the same thing with the wreath?
The wreath you can prepay ahead of time.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is that something that you do like Neptune Society will say, "Oh, we'll come anywhere in the world and get you," and
Right.
and
You
they-
would work with our funeral home. We would do the cremation and then get with the company
Okay.
to help your family,
But I mean, it's something you can pre-plan and pay as you go, sort of thing.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And then if
And
you,
they have different locations all around the coast. So if you move
east and west.
I'm not sure about west, east so far, but they're constantly getting more licenses and approvals for
I
new
just think
sites.
that's great. And when you find out about these services, do they come to you or?
That's very interesting. Sometimes we find out about services through families and they'll be like, I want this. And I'm like, well, I've never heard about it. Other times it's us that we know about it already, or we've heard another family-owned funeral home has had a good experience with them. So then we can offer that to our families.
Oh, so you actually, of course, you all have conferences.
Yes.
Where you get together
Yes.
and discuss the different suppliers.
I just had a next generation conference 2 weeks ago.
And what do you talk about at a next generation
We
conference?
talk about best practices, new innovative ways to serve families, how we can do things better, grief, everything that we can do better.
Do you have like a psychology major or?
We don't, but that a lot of funeral homes are looking into that and doing that.
So you don't have a grief counselor on site?
On site, no, not right
Okay.
now. But we can recommend.
Right. Do you bring them in if someone requests it? Do you have suppliers who are grief? I'm only asking because it seems like
what we would do is recommend that family to a certain someone. Yeah, we have a list of different resources that we give each family.
Okay.
So they can decide what's best for them. I mean, there's even online options if they don't want to go in somewhere. Well, there's a lot of telehealth now,
right,
for therapy. It's really we help that family find what's best for that particular situation.
Okay.
Depending on the kind of death and all that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So unless I'm wrong, producer, isn't my time up? Oh. I have to ask this on the air, really? While you're eating your lunch? Well, I only know it is because I've been watching her watch.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's been 43 minutes. Okay, well, good.
All right.
Yes, well, first, let me finish it. Grant Miller. Grant, come over here. Grant Miller just walked in to say, great show, ladies. And our producer told us we've been on way too long, but it was really, I'm so glad you said, because this whole eco thing, I love that.
I do too.
Yes, yeah. That's so good for bringing that up when I thought we should end the show, because we did it right. So this is Frances Reaves from Parent Your Parents, and this is Crystal Van Orsdel from Van Orsdel Funeral Homes at Miami Community News, MCN.com. And thank you very much, Elian, our producer. And now we're going to